In this unit, we're going to begin our look at forces. Now, a force is just a push or a pull, and we are used to measuring forces in pounds, but the SI unit of force is actually a newton, and a newton is small compared to a pound. 1 pound is about 4.4 newtons, or that's another way of saying that a newton is about a quarter of a pound. Now, there are two types of forces. The ones that you guys tend to think about when we think about exerting a force or a push or pull is called a contact force because two things actually have to touch. But there's also field forces. So, contact forces, the two objects have to physically be in contact. And when you push something or pull something, or when you slide something across the ground, friction acts on it, and those are all contact forces because things have to be touching. But there's also field forces which don't require physically touching, and that's stuff like gravity and charge and magnetism. So, two magnets can repel or attract if they're touching each other or not. And gravity between the sun and the earth keeps the earth in orbit around the sun, even though we are not touching the sun. Okay, but regardless, all forces are caused by agents. That means there is something that is applying the force, and you should be able to identify it. If you say a force is acting on an object, you should be able to tell me what is the agent that is applying or exerting that force. Okay, and to help us do that, we draw pictures called free body diagrams. A free body diagram just shows all the forces acting on an object, and when we draw these things, we point the arrows, or we draw arrows that start on the object that the forces are acting on, and then point them in the direction the force is acting. And then we label those forces, or those arrows, with the agent that's causing the force. So for instance, imagine I've got a book resting on a table. So here's my table, here's my book. Okay. We might think that there's no forces acting on it at all, except if we think about that for a little bit, we know that weight, the force due to gravity, is acting on it. So I draw that arrow starting on the book and pulling down. I have gravity. But that's not the only force acting on it. It's resting on the table, so the table is actually pushing back up on the book. So I draw that force and I say the table is exerting it. Now you might see me actually label this F for force and then table. So force from the table, force from gravity. These forces are pretty simple. Those are vertical forces. They're not the only ones that can act. If somebody was giving this a push, like pulling on it, if there was a string or something pulling on it, then I could say the force from the string. And so you can label forces in the direction they're acting with the agent that's causing them.